Hi there, welcome once again to my channel. This is your boy Jeffrey, and this is No Ghana with Jeffrey. On today's episode, we are going to discuss some of the ways that you can come to Ghana and live here on a very low budget. I repeat, on a very low budget. I'll be right back. Welcome back. On today's episode, I'm going to show you 4 basic areas that you should consider if you are trying to come to Ghana and live here on a very low budget, or if you are visiting Ghana and you are planning to come on a very low budget. These are the 4 basic areas that you should consider if you are trying to come to Ghana and live here or stay here on a very low budget. 1. Accommodation. 2. Transportation. 3. Food or feeding. And the last one, entertainment. The issue of accommodation. If you are planning to stay here for a long period like a year, 6 months or a year and a half, then I would advise you to do the right thing. That is renting a place instead of staying at a hotel, a guest house or a lodge. Remember, staying at this hotel, guest house and such places come with some high cost instead of as compared to you renting a place. So I'll leave some links below this video so you'll find out some affordable places that you can go and rent, affordable rental agencies or real estate agencies that you can rent within this short period that you would want to stay here. Remember, these places have kind of, as compared to you staying at a hotel, it's less expensive. Remember, we are talking about how to stay in Ghana on a low budget. But then again, if you are coming to Ghana and you are coming to stay here on a short period, so this is what you should do. Instead of you to go and rent at some 5-star hotels and some of these best hotels that we have in Ghana, there are some very affordable hotels that you can go and stay, which you wouldn't get the things that you wish for at this 5-star hotel, but they are also very comfortable. You get your place to sleep, you get a very nice washroom, you get a very nice environment, but they come at a very low cost compared to some of these high-class hotels that you may consider. Remember, we are talking about how to cut down costs when it comes to accommodation. Then again, instead of you to sleep at a hotel in Accra, another best thing that you can do, or option that you can choose to do, is to go or live outside Accra. Most people don't know this. Accommodation in Accra is very expensive, but when you move out to the outskirts of Accra, say you go to Takoradi, Cape Coast, the Volta region or the Eastern region, some of these places have some best hotels, but yet very cheap. Remember, very cheap. You are visiting Ghana, and Ghana is not only about Accra. Cape Coast, Takoradi, and all these places are also some of the wonderful places. I think in the subsequent videos we'll be talking about some of these places. So instead of you to stay in Accra and pay more, I would advise you to move outside Accra and pay less. This will help you. Remember, if you are staying for long, you better rent a place. And if you are going to stay for a short time, you may want to stay at some very affordable hotels or guest houses which are relatively staying for a short time. I would advise you to move outside Accra, which have some of the best hotels yet very cheap. If you are visiting Ghana, one other thing that you can also do to cut costs is to pitch with friends. Perhaps you came to Ghana on an invitation from a friend. So instead of you to go and stay at a hotel and pay, you can also go and stay with that friend. Given that the friend has a very nice apartment or a nice place that you can pitch. If not, then you have to go and find another place. But if the friend have some accommodation or facility that can host you, then I'll advise you to go and pitch with that friend. Doing that will relatively cut most of the expenses that you would have spent on accommodation. Next thing that you consider is transportation. Remember, we are talking about how to come to Ghana and live Ghana happily on a low budget. So, considering transportation, one of the things that you can do to cut costs is to pitch with a friend. And this is what I mean. Remember, when we were talking about accommodation, we mentioned of this plan or this tip that is trying to pitch with a friend. If based on the fact that a friend invited you. So when it comes to transportation also, if you are being invited by a friend to Ghana for the first time, instead of you to go and rent a car, why don't you purchase with a friend's car, the friend that invited you? Remember, if you do that, you are not going to pay any money when it comes to transportation, because that friend is going to take care of it. Even if you would support the friend, it wouldn't be that much compared to you going to rent a car or you going to buy a car to use. The next thing that we'll talk about when it comes to transportation is to share costs. To share costs. And this is what I say: if you are friends, say, or a family of 2 or 3 or 4, and you decided to come on this trip, instead of you to pay transportation individually when you're going to places, so say if we are going to a nightclub, this one will take his personal car, this one will take his personal car, and you go as a convoy or whatever. No, do this, share the costs. Okay, share the cost. So each and every person will contribute to the amount that the person or the driver would request for. So say if the driver is going to is requesting for an amount of, or a fare of, say 100 Ghana cedis, and you guys are 4, each and every person is going to pay 25 cedis, making the 100 cedis. Okay, so instead of one person paying that amount of money, you kind of share that cost. So sharing costs will also help you cut costs when it comes to transportation. Now, another thing that we'll talk about when it comes to transportation, in order for you to cut costs, for you to enjoy Ghana on a low budget, is using of what? Public transportation. Most of the times, when foreigners come to Ghana, they don't really use the public transport. Okay, they don't really use the public transport. Public transport is the best way that you can go. And remember, this comes at a very cheap price. So some of the public transport that we have is the popular one that we call the trotro, is a van that takes a lot of passengers from destination, and it mostly run within the city. Okay, and of course the taxi system also works here. And we also have the online services like the Yango, the Uber, the Bolt, and the rest. You can also use some of these mediums when it comes to transportation. The thing that we'll talk about when it comes to you coming to Ghana on a low budget is the issue of feeding or food. Most of the times, when you visit a new place, you may not want to eat at a very localized place. You would want to go to a place where they sell these continental dishes and everything. And remember, some of these places come at a very high cost. Why don't you do this? Why don't you try the local dishes that the country that you are visiting for the first time is having? Remember, some of these local dishes come at a very low cost. So if you are coming to Ghana, I would advise you, instead of you to eat at restaurants and big places at a very high cost, get a friend who knows some local bars or local restaurants that sell local dishes. Try them and you like them. I promise you like some of these dishes. Another thing that you can do to cut costs when it comes to food is to prepare your own food. So instead of you to always going outside to buy food, why don't you prepare the food at home? If you prepare the food at home, you will get access to keep when it comes to the food and also your money. Remember, you get a lot of money or change or leftovers that you can use another time. So it's also one of the means or ways that you can use when it comes to food issue, when cutting costs on food. Prepare your own food, and then also don't try and eat at a high profile places. We have nice local restaurants that you can go and eat, and some of these places have very cheap food but very delicious and healthy. Very delicious and healthy. Now the last part that we talk about is entertainment. In Ghana, some of the ways that we entertain ourselves is going for events and parties, or throwing parties at homes, and even also using the media. So say the television, the movies on these online platforms and other things. In Ghana, this comes at a very cheap cost, unless maybe you want to go to some high profile programs. But trust me, visiting a local bar or a pub around where you stay or along the road is also another source of entertainment. Visit there and then you wouldn't spend much than to go to a very high profile place. I don't want to mention names, but there are some places that sells or gives you entertainment at a very high cost. So you can entertain yourself. Go to some cool spots somewhere and entertain yourself. Or another thing that you can do is to enjoy our movies, local movies and local music at a very low cost. This is some of the things that you can do to enjoy your stay in Ghana on a very low budget. My name is Jeffrey. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to share and comment and tell me what you want us to talk about before you make that first trip to Ghana. God bless you.